Lauren said LOL about my shoulder surgery like it was a scheduling glitch. In that instant, I stopped hearing her words and started hearing 15 years of contempt. I'm Ethan Parker, 42, architect, the kind of man who's spent his life making sure structures don't fail because someone forgot to respect the load. Our kitchen is clean in that staged way. Counters wiped, fruit bowl centered, the whole room pretending we don't live like strangers. It's early afternoon. Chicago light coming in hard through the window. My sling is on the chair beside me because it's easier to breathe without it, even if my shoulder throbs like it has a heartbeat. Lauren stands at the island with her phone in her hand, thumb flicking like the device is a slot machine. She's wearing a soft sweater that costs more than it should, hair pulled back like she's about to do something important. She doesn't look at me when I talk. That's the first thing I notice, how natural it is for her not to. I need you here, I say. Not dramatic, just practical. 2 weeks. That's what the surgeon said. I can't drive. I can't lift anything. I'm going to be on pain meds. She finally looks up, and there's this tiny pause where I can tell she's choosing the version of the conversation she wants. I'm not canceling Vegas, she says, like she's reading off a grocery list. I blink once. Lauren, it's the same week, right? She says. And we've had it planned. We've had my shoulder planned for years, I say. I've been putting this off because of deadlines and your family stuff and she smiles and it's not kind. It's a small, entertained smile. The kind someone gives when they think you're being inconvenient on purpose. Put it on the shared calendar, she says. You know I told the girls I'm going. It is on the calendar, I say. It's been on the calendar. She huffs a laugh. A short one, like a bark that's trying to pass as humor. Okay, well, LOL, she says, and her eyes go back to her phone. Lol. Not a word, not even really a laugh. A label she throws on my pain like it's a meme, like I'm being dramatic about a torn joint and a doctor who used words like degeneration and permanent loss. I feel the argument try to rise in me out of habit. I can almost see the path. I push, she rolls her eyes, I list facts, she reframes it as my choice, and I end up apologizing for asking my wife to act like my wife. But something else happens instead. It's like a beam finally gives and the whole illusion shifts. Not a collapse, more like a quiet reveal. I'm looking at the same kitchen, the same woman, but the structure underneath my assumptions is gone. Because the problem isn't Vegas. It's the way she says LOL, like my body is a scheduling conflict. It's the way she doesn't even pretend to feel bad. It's the certainty in her voice that her life is the main story and mine is just background noise she edits when it gets annoying. 15 years line up in my head like drawings spread across a table. Dinners where she talked over me. Holidays where I did the work and she took the credit. Arguments where I stayed measured and she got cruel because she knew I'd keep trying. Every compromise that only went one direction. I look at her, really look, and I don't feel the heat I expected. I feel a calm settle into place. Clean, heavy, immovable. Finality. Lauren keeps scrolling. So, she says without looking up, can you just hire someone? Like a nurse or whatever? I nod once, slow. Not agreement. Recognition. Yeah, I say. My voice comes out even. I'll handle it. And for the first time in a long time, I mean it in a way she doesn't understand. The shoulder didn't blow out in a heroic moment. No dramatic fall. No movie scenes. It happened the way real damage happens, slow, ignored, paid for later. Years of site visits, lifting sample cases, turning my body to compensate for bad posture at a desk, pretending the ache was normal because everyone's got something. Then one morning I reached up to grab a carry-on from an overhead bin and felt a sharp, wet snap deep in the joint, like a rubber band breaking where you can't see it. I finished the flight, finished the meeting, shook hands with my left like it was a funny quirk. By the time I got home, I couldn't raise my arm high enough to take off my shirt without swearing. The MRI was honest. The surgeon was more honest. He pulled the images up on a screen and talked to me like a man, not a patient. You've been compensating for a long time, he said. There's tearing. There's wear. If you keep pushing it, you'll lose function and you won't get back. How long? I asked. 2 weeks minimum where you need support, he said. No driving. No lifting. You'll be in a sling. You'll be foggy. You can't play tough with this. Support. I took that word home like it meant something in my house. Months earlier, I'd done it the responsible way. Booked the surgery far out. Blocked off my work calendar. Delegated projects. Moved site meetings. Put hard deadlines in front of clients so nobody could pretend I was bailing last minute. I even put it on the shared calendar like Lauren liked. Color-coded. Notes. Recovery timeline. Follow-up appointments. The first time I brought it up at dinner, she didn't stop eating. So, I said casually, surgery's set. I'll need you around after 2 weeks. She chewed. Nodded like she'd heard oil change. Put it on the shared calendar, she said. It's already there, I said. Okay, she replied, and changed the subject to a new restaurant her friend Brittany wanted to try. That was the first brush-off. Not a fight, just a dismissal, a gentle shove into the corner where my needs lived. Then came the closer date, the reminders, the normal human expectation that your spouse will internalize something that matters. And then came Vegas. Back in the kitchen after the LOL. I went upstairs and sat on the edge of the bed with my arm hanging like dead weight. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't panicking about the procedure. I was thinking in timelines. If I go through with this as scheduled, I'm dependent. I'm vulnerable in a way I can't muscle through. I'm at the mercy of a woman who just laughed at the inconvenience of my pain. That's not marriage. That's exposure. That night, I replayed the earlier conversation in my head. The one that should have told me everything. We'd been sitting at that same kitchen island, her laptop open, tabs for flights and outfits and some spa packages. I can't cancel, she'd said, eyes bright. I already paid my part. I'm not asking you to cancel because I'm jealous, I said. I'm asking because I'll be recovering from surgery. She'd looked at me then, and the look wasn't confused. It was annoying. You chose that week, she said, like the rotator cuff and cartilage had checked her schedule and decided to be rude. It's been scheduled for months, I reminded her. And Vegas has been planned too, she said. We can't rearrange everything because you decided now is the time. I felt my jaw tighten. Lauren, I didn't decide. My shoulder is wrecked. She shrugged. Clean, careless shrug. Hire help, she said. People do it all the time. Like a nurse, or your sister, or whatever, or whatever. That phrase hit harder than LOL. Because it wasn't even meant to be mean. It was meant to be efficient. Like outsourcing care was a normal substitute for partnership. In the quiet after she went to bed, I sat at my desk and stared at the surgery packet. Post-op instructions, medication schedule, warning signs, a list of things I wouldn't be able to do alone. Then I opened my phone and searched for home health aides in Chicago. Not because I planned to hire one, because I wanted to see how easily she replaced herself. I shut the phone off and sat there until the room felt cold. The next morning, I called the surgeon's office. The receptionist was cheerful. Parker, right? Your procedure is coming up soon. Yeah, I said. I need to reschedule. Pause. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, I told her. That wasn't a lie. Not anymore. She offered dates. I picked one far enough out to give me room. Room to plan. Room to remove dependency. Room to build support that wasn't built on hope. When I hung up, I felt something sharp and clean in my chest. Not fear. Not relief exactly. Control. Lauren came into the kitchen later, coffee in hand, humming. She glanced at me like I was furniture. You still mad? She asked like it was about tone. I looked up, kept my face neutral. No, I said. I handled it. Her shoulders loosened immediately. The tension she hadn't even tried to hide evaporated. Good, she said. See? That's what I mean. Just be practical. Practical. She thought she'd won an argument. What she didn't understand was I'd stopped arguing. I'd shifted the project. And once I did that, the surgery wasn't the main event anymore. It was the first pivot. Lauren's energy changed the moment Vegas became real. She moved through the house with that pre-trip glow, half distracted, half excited, phone always buzzing, laughter in her throat like she'd already left. Packages started showing up at the door. Shoe boxes, dresses folded in plastic, little luxury bottles that smelled like expensive promises. "Try this," she said one night, holding up a sparkly top like it mattered. I looked at it the way you look at a material sample you're not going to use. "Nice," I said. She didn't notice the difference. That's the thing. She didn't notice when my silence stopped sulking and became structured. I kept my face neutral, kept my tone flat. I let her talk about brunch reservations and pool parties and the girls, and I nodded at the right moments like I was still part of the same life. Meanwhile, I started moving like an architect with a demolition plan. Not reckless, not emotional, methodical. The first call was to a financial advisor I trusted for years, Mark Heller. Not a flashy guy, quiet competence. The kind of man who talks in percentages and risk, not fantasies. I met him downtown in his office, a room with no personal photos and a view of the river that made everything look expensive and controlled. He didn't ask me how I felt. He asked, "What's your exposure?" I slid a folder across his desk. Joint accounts, mortgage, lake property, retirement, credit cards, her spending. He flipped through, eyes scanning, pen tapping once at a line item. "She doesn't know you're here," he said. "No," I replied. He nodded like that was the correct answer. "Okay," he said. "We're going to map it clean. You don't do anything sloppy. No hiding assets. No vindictive moves. Just separation and documentation." That word again, documentation. The language of men who don't lose in court because they don't rely on emotion. He walked me through what was joint, what was separate, what was risky, what was protected. He explained the timing. He explained how quickly a spending spree can become a strategy when someone realizes the ground is shifting. "Start a new account," he said. "Your name only. Move your direct deposit. Keep paying joint obligations so you look stable. We'll build a record that you're reasonable." Reasonable. That was the point. I wasn't trying to scorch the earth. I was trying to stop living on soil that didn't hold weight. The second call was to an attorney. I didn't pick someone from a billboard. I picked someone who'd handled quiet divorces for men with real assets and real reputations. Patricia Trish-Nguyen. Sharp, calm, not impressed by drama. Her office was all glass and matte black, minimal, expensive. She shook my hand like she already understood the assignment. "What's the trigger?" she asked. "She's leaving for Vegas during my surgery," I said. She laughed about it. Trish didn't react theatrically. She just wrote. "And you want divorce?" she said, not as a question. "Yes." "Any kids?" she asked. "No." "Infidelity suspected?" Her eyes flicked up. "Not confirmed," I said. "But the respect is gone. That's confirmed." She leaned back slightly. "Good. We don't need a villain. We need a plan." That sentence hit me like oxygen. She laid out the steps the way a contractor lays out phases. Filing, disclosures, temporary arrangements, asset division, potential mediation. She asked about the lake house, asked about my business accounts, asked about Lauren's job and income. Then she said, "You're going to feel tempted to announce this early. Don't. You announce it when your documents are ready and your accounts are stable." "I'm not announcing anything," I told her. Trish nodded once. "Good." Back home, the house felt the same, smelled the same, sounded the same. Dishwasher humming. HVAC clicking on. Lauren's laugh floating up from her phone like nothing was wrong. That's what made it eerie. I'd walk past the framed photos in the hallway. Weddings, vacations, that one lake trip where she'd insisted we take 50 pictures until the light hit her face right, and I'd feel nothing. Not sadness. Not nostalgia. Just the clear understanding that those were renderings. Pretty images used to sell a structure that wasn't sound. At night, when Lauren fell asleep with her phone on her chest, I'd slip downstairs and work. I pulled every tax return, every statement, mortgage documents, property deeds, insurance policies. I took photos of valuables, watches, jewelry, the art she liked to brag about. I logged serial numbers where I could. I didn't take anything. I counted. There's a difference. I created a folder on an encrypted drive, backed it up twice, printed copies for Trish, made a list of what was sentimental and what was just expensive. And I watched Lauren in the daytime like I'd never watched her before. The way she'd talk to me only when she needed something. The way she'd correct me in front of friends like it was a hobby. The way she'd roll her eyes at my pain but light up when her phone buzzed. She didn't see any of it in herself. And she didn't see the new thing in me, how I was no longer trying to be understood. I was just building a clean path out. Fair. Lawful. Irreversible. On Thursday, she tossed a new swimsuit on the back of a chair and said, "You're being weirdly quiet." I looked up from my laptop. "Just busy." "With what?" she asked, half teasing, half annoyed. I held her gaze. "Calm." "Work," I said. She accepted it because she always accepted my work as an explanation. Work was the place she could safely ignore me without guilt. She went back to her phone and I went back to the plan. In construction, you don't start tearing down until you've checked every support. You don't swing a hammer until you know what falls and what might fall with it. That week, while she packed outfits, I packed exits. And the strange part was how ordinary everything still looked. A quiet house, a clean kitchen, a marriage that, from the outside, would seem fine. From the inside, I could already hear the settling cracks. Not loud, just real. Friday morning, she moved fast. Suitcase by the door, makeup bag zipped. Hair done like she was going to meet someone who mattered. She didn't look like a woman leaving her husband behind during a medical crisis. She looked like a woman heading toward freedom. I stood in the foyer with my coffee, shoulder aching in that dull way that reminded me time wasn't on my side. Lauren checked the mirror, adjusted her earrings, and finally glanced at me. "The fridge is stocked," she said. "So you don't starve." "I'm not helpless," I replied. She smirked. We'll see. Don't fall apart while I'm gone." It wasn't a concern. It was a joke at my expense. One last little stamp that said my discomfort was entertainment. I watched her wheel the suitcase out. The rideshare driver loaded it without looking at me. Lauren leaned in for a quick, distracted kiss that landed near my cheek more than my mouth. Then she was gone. The door shut. Locks clicked. The house went still in that way it never does when someone's moving around in it. I waited until I saw the car pull away through the front window. Then I moved. Not angrily. Efficiently. I went straight to my office, downtown, glass walls, clean lines, the place where decisions actually stuck. The moment I sat at my desk, my body did what it always does when the stakes are real. Pain got filed away behind purpose. I opened a fresh notebook and wrote a title across the top. Separation. Inventory/accounts/timeline. It looked like a project header. That was the point. Emotions don't hold up in court. Documentation does. First, assets. I pulled statements, printed them, and highlighted balances. Joint checking, joint savings, mortgage, retirement, brokerage, the lake property. I ran reports on credit cards, every transaction for the last 12 months. Patterns show up when you stop making excuses for them. Spikes in spending. Girls' night dinners that cost more than a car payment. Boutique charges. Hotels that didn't match work conferences. I didn't jump to conclusions. I just marked them. Dates. Amounts. Merchant names. Second, property. I walked through the house room by room with my phone, recording video. Cabinets. Closets. The basement storage. The garage. Every visible value. Every piece of furniture I could identify was purchased during the marriage. Not because I wanted to take it, because I wanted a before picture that couldn't be argued with later. I photographed serial numbers where I could, electronics, appliances, took clear shots of art, took close-ups of the designer bags she liked to call investments. I noted the condition, location, any proof of purchase I could find. It felt clinical. That was the point too. Third, access. Per Mark's guidance, I moved my direct deposit to a new account in my name only. I didn't drain anything. I didn't play games. I left joint funds to cover joint bills and to show stability. I set alerts on every shared account. A text for every charge over a certain amount. A notification for every transfer. A paper trail that created itself. I updated passwords carefully, legally, within what Trish told me I could do without it looking like sabotage. I backed up everything again. Hard drive, encrypted cloud, physical copies in a safe deposit box. By Friday evening, my back ached from sitting, my shoulder throbbed, and my eyes were gritty from staring at numbers. But I wasn't spinning. I ordered food, ate at my desk. Keep going. Saturday, I met Trish briefly. We didn't talk about feelings. We talked about leverage, timelines, and how to position a proposal so it looked like what it was, fair. Offer something clean, she said. It makes you look reasonable. If she rejects it, she's the problem, not you. I nodded. I want to go out without chaos. Then you stay disciplined, she said. Saturday night, I sat alone in the house and listened to it. No buzzing phone in Lauren's hand. No reality TV noise. No performative sighs. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the city outside. I realized something that surprised me. I wasn't lonely. I was lighter. Sunday morning, I drove to a storage unit I'd rented quietly under my name and dropped off copies of the most important documents. I didn't trust a house that was about to become contested territory. Then I came back and drafted a settlement framework with Trish's outline in mind. Not spiteful, not greedy, clear. Division that made sense. Timelines, property arrangements, steps that prevented the breakdown phase people like Lauren thrive in, the chaos, the emotional bargaining, the public narrative. By Sunday afternoon, anger wasn't even in the room anymore. Relief was, not the soft kind, the sturdy kind, the kind you feel when you finally see a version of your life that doesn't involve negotiating for basic care. Vegas wasn't the event. Vegas was the opening, and the door had already closed behind her. The Wisconsin air hit differently the moment I stepped out of the truck. Cleaner, colder, honest. The lake was gray under a hard sky, the kind that makes you feel small in a useful way. No sirens, no constant city buzz, just wind moving through pine and the soft slap of water against the shoreline. We'd bought the property 3 years ago as a promise. Lauren called it our escape. She talked about it like it was a brand. The lake house, like saying it enough times, made us a certain kind of couple. The kind that hosted friends, drank wine on a deck, posted photos with captions that implied peace and intimacy. I designed it. Of course I did. I designed everything. At first, the plans had been about us, or what I thought us was. A wide kitchen for entertaining because Lauren liked the idea of being the hostess. A big island, open sightlines, a living room that faced the water like a magazine spread. A primary suite with a private balcony so she could sit out there in the mornings and pretend she was the kind of woman who read books slowly. A closet bigger than my first apartment. A wellness room she insisted on, soft floors, mirrors, a place she could claim she used even if she didn't. Standing there now, looking at the site markers and the foundation work that had already started, I felt a strange kind of embarrassment. Not for wanting it, for designing around someone who wasn't load-bearing. I walked the perimeter where the footprint would be. The earth was raw, disturbed. Stakes with fluorescent tape fluttered in the wind. The project had been paused for winter and scheduling, but it was ready to move. I pulled the rolled plans from the back seat and spread them across the hood of my truck. The paper snapped and fought the cold air. I stared at the drawings like they belonged to another man. Every line told a story. Compromises, assumptions, concessions made in the name of keeping her happy. Spaces built for her image, not my peace. I took my pen out and circled the wellness room. Then I drew a clean X through it. My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren, probably from Vegas. I didn't open it. Instead, I called Sean Delaney. Sean was a builder, a friend, and one of the few men I knew who didn't talk too much. He'd built half the houses along that stretch of lake. He'd also seen enough divorces to understand when a man's voice changes. He picked up on the second ring. Ethan. Sean. I said. Plans are changing. A short pause. Yeah. I repeated. I need you up here. Today, if you can. He didn't ask why. He just said, give me 2 hours. When Sean's truck rolled in, he got out wearing a heavy coat and a face that looked carved out of weather. He walked up to the hood of my truck and glanced at the plans. You're serious, he said. I don't do this for fun, I replied. Sean's eyes flicked to my shoulder. Still busted. Still, I said. That's part of why. He nodded once, then looked back down. What's changing? He asked. I tapped the big open kitchen. This stays, but it's not for entertainment anymore. It's for me. Clean lines. Efficient. No showpiece island the size of a stage. He grunted approval. I pointed at the living room. The seating plan gets tighter. I want it to feel like a room I live in, not a lobby. Sean's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Good. I dragged my pen along the primary suite. Balcony stays, but the closet gets cut in half. He raised an eyebrow. I met his eyes. I'm not building a shrine to someone else's wardrobe. Sean nodded like he understood exactly. I circled the wellness room again. This becomes a workshop. A shop? He asked. Yeah, I said. For tools. For building models. For quiet work. I want a space that doesn't care what it looks like on Instagram. Sean let out a low laugh. Now you're talking. I flipped to the second sheet where the guest rooms were laid out. These get smaller, I said. I don't need a parade of friends. I need a place where I can breathe. Sean leaned in, scanning. And this. He tapped the section labeled Lauren's office/flex room. I didn't hesitate. Gone. What goes there? He asked. I stared at the blank rectangle on paper where her flex space was. The one she described as a place to write and create. She hadn't written anything longer than a caption in years. My office, I said. A real one. With a door. Sean's eyes stayed on me for a beat. You sure? I didn't have to think. I've never been more sure of anything. We worked like that for an hour, line by line, decision by decision. Sean offered practical notes. Cost changes, timeline shifts, what could be done before spring, what needed permits updated. He didn't try to treat it. He treated it like what it was, a client change order. When we finished, the plans looked leaner, stronger, more honest, less space for performance, more space for living. Sean rolled the drawings back up and tucked them under his arm. I'll get the revisions started, he said. You want me to hold off on anything until you finalize stuff? I want forward motion, I said. No pauses. No waiting. He nodded. Got it. As he walked back to his truck, he stopped and looked at the lake. The place is going to be good, he said without turning around, when it's built for the right person. After he left, I stayed a while longer. The wind cut through my jacket. My shoulder ached. The sky stayed gray, but my mind was clear. I wasn't destroying a shared dream out of spite. I was correcting a design based on new information. Lauren had already left this project. She'd left it the way she left everything that required real effort. By laughing, by dismissing, by choosing herself and calling it practical. Fine. Then I would choose myself too. And the lake house, the thing we were supposed to be building together, would become what it should have been all along. Private future. Built to hold. Lauren came in Sunday night smelling like hotel lobby perfume and victory. Tan, laughing, suitcase wheels clicking on our hardwood like she owned the sound. She talked fast. Vegas was insane, you would have hated it. And kicked off her heels. I didn't stand. I didn't smile. The kitchen table was cleared except for one neat stack and a pen. Sit, I said. Her eyes finally landed on the papers. What is that? Read the top page. She picked it up, still smiling. Then the smile thinned. Are you serious? Yes. She dropped it like it burned. Is this because of a trip? Ethan, don't be dramatic. It's because you said LOL about my surgery. She scoffed. Oh my God, you're punishing me. No, I'm ending it. Her face hardened. You can't just. I can, I said steady. Petitions filed Monday. This is the settlement I'm offering. It's fair. Your lawyer can call mine. She leaned forward, voice sharp. You think you're in control? I met her stare. I've been in control all week. You just got home. She searched my face for the argument, the apology. I gave her neither. I slid the pen. Sign, or we do it the hard way. Caleb's place smelled like motor oil and black coffee. 2-bedroom, clean enough, no softness to hide in. He didn't ask questions when I showed up with a duffel and a calm face. You got a plan? He asked. Yeah, I said. I'm executing it. Lauren's retaliation started before the ink was dry. First came the texts. You're embarrassing yourself. Then you'll regret this. Then the shift into performance. Messages to mutual friends about my mental state, how I was spiraling, how she was worried. Trish told me to save everything and say nothing. So I did. Then the spending began. My phone lit up with alerts, boutique charges, restaurant tabs, a weekend hotel in the city. Not enough to look like fraud at first glance. Enough to be a message. I can still touch you. I called Mark. He didn't react. He just said, lock it down. I canceled the joint cards that weren't tied to essential bills. Left the mortgage and utilities covered. Moved what I was allowed to move. Set tighter alerts. Every click created a record. Lauren escalated when she realized the money had doors now. She started showing up at the house during work hours. Neighbors later told me she'd been loading boxes into her car. Just grabbing my things, she apparently said with a smile. I didn't confront her. I drove by once with Caleb and photographed the trunk open from the street. My camera catching a framed piece of art I'd bought, then a set of kitchen equipment, then a watch case. Click, click, click. Not anger. Receipts. Her lawyer sent a letter full of threats. Claims about marital misconduct, about contested assets, about how I'd abandoned the home. Trish responded with 3 paragraphs and attachments. Facts beat tone. Then I scheduled the surgery, not as a plea for her attention. As a final test, I no longer needed her to pass. My sister, Megan, flew in. She didn't ask me to explain to Lauren. She just showed up with groceries, a spare key, and the kind of steady presence that makes recovery safer. You should have done this sooner, she said, helping me set up pillows. Yeah, I answered. I know. The morning of the procedure, as they rolled me toward the OR, I realized something simple and brutal. I was safer going under anesthesia with my wife nowhere near my life. That wasn't a tragedy. It was information. And once you have real information, you build differently. It was Tuesday afternoon when my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Recovery makes everything feel distant, like you're underwater. But the number was local, and something in me said the answer. Ethan Parker? A woman asked. Yes. This is Madison Grant, she said. And I recognized the name immediately. Lauren's colleague. The one who'd been at our house twice. Who'd smiled too hard and laughed at Lauren's jokes like it was a job. My stomach didn't drop. It just tightened. I shouldn't be calling you, Madison said. But what she told people about you isn't true. And Vegas wasn't what she said it was. I stayed quiet. Let her keep talking. Madison exhaled. She met a guy out there. A startup CEO. That was the point. The girls' trip was covered. They were together most of the weekend. There it was. Not graphic. Not romantic. Just the blunt outline of betrayal. Why tell me? I asked. Because she's telling everyone you're unstable, Madison said. And because she bragged about him like it was a promotion. It made me sick. I thanked her. Calm short. Then I texted Trish. Call me. New info. Trish rang back within 10 minutes. I gave her Madison's details and repeated the startup CEO line exactly as said. Trish didn't gasp. She didn't moralize. She said, good. Now we get sharper. What does it change? I asked. It changes the questions we ask in discovery, she replied. If she's aligning with someone who has money or equity, she may be planning a move. It also changes her incentive. She wants this divorce clean and fast. That's leverage. 2 days later, Lauren's attorney requested mediation. Not a suggestion. A push. Trish read the email, then looked at me across her desk. That's your answer. She wants out without a spotlight. I pictured Lauren in Vegas, glowing, untouchable, laughing at my pain like it was background noise. I pictured her coming home and finding papers instead of a fight. Fine, I said. We meditate. The conference room was cold and professional, the kind of place where people pretend they're reasonable while trying to win. Lauren walked in perfectly put together, hair, nails, posture. She looked like she'd practiced being calm. But her calm had a brittle edge now, like glass that knows it can crack. She didn't say sorry. She didn't ask about my shoulder. She just smiled thinly and said, "Let's get this over with." Trish opened her folder. We can. Hour by hour, we ground it down. Numbers, dates, assets, terms. And by the end, the agreement we landed on looked a lot like what I'd offered at the start, which told me everything I needed to know. Lauren could have been reasonable at any point. She just didn't want to, until she had something else to protect. The judge finalized it on a Wednesday. No drama, no speeches, just signatures, dates, and a clerk who looked bored because this wasn't her life. When I walked out of the courthouse, the air felt sharp and clean, like winter cutting away what didn't belong. 2 weeks later, my phone rang again. A different unknown number this time. I answered because I've learned that surprises don't get smaller if you ignore them. Ethan Parker? A man asked. Yes. A pause. Then, this is, he said his name, and I didn't recognize it, but I knew what he was the moment he spoke. The careful tone, the controlled confidence, the need to measure himself against me. I'm calling because Lauren told me some things, he said, and I'm trying to figure out what's true. I could have asked questions, could have pushed, could have tried to damage her next life the way she tried to damage mine. I didn't. She's free to build whatever story she needs, I said. But if you're calling me, you already don't trust it. Silence. Then he cleared his throat. So, you're saying I'm saying, I cut in calm. I'm done being involved. Make your own decisions. I hung up before he could turn it into a negotiation. A few days after that, Lauren tried one last time in person. Parking garage under her new building downtown. Concrete, dim light, footsteps echoing. I was there to sign final closing paperwork on the Chicago house sale. She appeared by my car like she'd been waiting. Same perfect look. Same practiced face. Ethan, she said, like she was greeting an old friend. I didn't flinch. I just held my folder and waited. I never wanted it to go like this, she said quickly. You forced it. You know that, right? There it was, history rewriting in real time. You left for Vegas, I said. During my surgery, she scoffed. It was a trip. You made it a war. No, I replied. I made it a conclusion. Her eyes flashed. You always had to be right. I looked at her for a beat, truly looked, and the strangest part was how little I felt. No heat, no pull. You can tell yourself whatever helps you sleep, I said. Just don't tell it to me. She stepped closer, voice dropping, like she was about to try intimacy as a weapon. Was it worth it? She asked. I opened my car door. Yes, that was the whole answer. After the Chicago house sale closed, she relocated for a new job, new city, new storyline. She posted photos that looked happy. That's what she did best. I drove north. The lake house was finished by early fall. Sean's crew did clean work. The revised design felt like breathing. A workshop that smelled like cut wood and steel. A real office with a door. A kitchen that served function, not performance. A living room that faced the water without trying to impress it. On the first night, I stayed there alone. I sat on the deck with a drink and listened to the lake. No buzzing phone. No tension waiting to be triggered. No need to translate my pain into something acceptable. Just quiet. A week later, I hosted a small night, Caleb, Sean, and my sister Megan. No speeches. Just steak on the grill, a few beers, and men who'd shown up when it mattered. At one point, Caleb looked around the place and said, "This fits you." I nodded. That was the point. Later that night, after they left, My phone buzzed with a text from an interior designer I'd worked with on a high-end project. Elena Marquez. Precise taste, sharp mind, no nonsense. Elena. Saw the lake house photos Sean posted. Congratulations. It looks solid. Elena. If you ever want help finishing the office space, I'd love to collaborate. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. Not because it was romantic, because it was simple, respectful, normal. A door cracking open not with need, but with possibility. I typed back one line. Me thanks. I might take you up on that. Then I set the phone down and walked through my house. My real one. Checking doors, lights, lines, the way a man does when he finally lives inside something built to hold. The story wasn't about winning. It was about rebuilding a life that finally fit.